having a fantastic day today. My name is Kathy Merkel, and I'm so happy that you guys decided to tune in today. Something I wanted to say. So welcome to my channel. Today's topic that I want to talk about is how to get unstuck on a healing journey. I know sometimes when we are in the process of healing some pretty major neurological things, we can feel very stuck at times because the nerves in the body take the longest to heal out of everything. And so sometimes it can be the most frustrating experience to try and heal a neurological condition. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been following medical medium protocols for a little bit over 6 years. I came down with about 30 neurological symptoms in 2018, and including spasmodic dysphonia, all sorts of Lyme disease symptoms, things like vertigo, things like dizziness, muscle fatigue, weakness, muscles spasming constantly in my body, all of that good stuff. Not great stuff, actually. But anyway, so I started, healing myself. Of course, I made a lot of the rookie mistakes, jumped right in, did a cleanse almost immediately after starting the medical medium protocols. I went from being on a keto diet for 1.5 years to overnight to becoming a vegan, and then anyway, so I did all sorts of the no-nos, which is to shock my body, go too fast, not listen to what was going on in my body. I don't know what you guys are dealing with, but if you feel like dropping a comment and letting me know what kind of symptoms are the pesky ones for you, that will help me to maybe offer some advice or guidance or something specific. Maybe especially if it's something that I dealt with, I am always happy to share what I found to be very helpful. So when we're in the process of healing ourselves, it can feel like a lifetime, right? So I'm fortunate in the fact that I found the medical medium information and really was dedicated to that. It was about 1 year into my journey that I realized that I also had some emotional and some other brain rewiring that I needed to do to fully heal myself, because I was very dedicated to the food and all of those types of protocols in the first year or so. But then I just realized after a while that I knew intuitively, because my symptoms came on after a trauma that had happened in our family. So I knew there was an emotional component to all of this. So I started to take a look at all of that as well. And so what I want to talk about today is more about the emotional side of healing and the energetic frequency that we are embodying, because our ability to heal is a direct reflection of our energetic frequency. When our bodies are vibrating on a high frequency, when we're in an emotionally great state, we can accomplish a lot very quickly. But when we get stuck in kind of a low vibe kind of thing, emotionally feeling low, our symptoms in our bodies are screaming at us, that's really hard to overcome sometimes mentally. But when we learn to change the focus on those symptoms to what is going right and to the things that are happening in a positive fashion, we can start turning it all around, because we build momentum when all the things come together. We have all of the protocols. We've mastered, removing the troublemaker foods and the things that are causing inflammation in our bodies. We have learned to bring in tons and tons of high vibe, high frequency fruits and vegetables. That is super important. So we're getting some of those engine pistons turning, but we sometimes need to have a look at the emotional side of healing as well as what our brains are telling us, and what part of our brain is running the show. Often it is our primordial brain that wants to keep us safe but is actually keeping us in fight or flight and not allowing us to fully move into the next phase. So when we are experiencing a lot of physical symptoms in our bodies, it's easy to focus on those. And I made that mistake too. In the beginning, I was really focused on my symptoms, and every day I would rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 so I could see my progress and blah, blah, blah. But what I realized over time is that focusing on those symptoms actually magnifies them. We have this thing in our brain that is called the Raticular Activating System, which is the filter of our brain that basically tells our brain exactly what information it's going to let in and what information it's filtering out. And often our RAS, the Raticular Activating System, is being run by the primordial brain, the one that is keeping us in fight or flight, in the fear loop, trying to keep us safe. So we have this kind of double whammy. We have the primordial brain with a negative slant to things because it's always looking for danger, wants to make sure, and danger for the primordial brain can just be change. It wants to keep us in the same box of familiarity instead of into the unknown. And so the problem is with that is we know what the results are of being in the current state of affairs. We know how it's manifesting in our bodies, in our lives. We know what the quality of our life is in the known, in what we've already always done. It is in the unknown that we find the change and find the magic sometimes. And the primordial brain doesn't allow us actually to take that leap of faith to go into the great unknown and find the answers that we're looking for. So what we have to do is start becoming more conscious of who's running the show. Are we letting the primordial brain be in charge, or are we being more intentional and conscious as we're moving through our day? So instead of focusing on all of the symptoms that are still not healed in our bodies, a better approach would possibly be to start looking for the glimmers of the things that are healing or that have healed. I know for myself, when I first started using some of these medical medium protocols, the celery juice and the heavy metal detox smoothie, that kind of thing, my digestion cleared up almost immediately. Like 2 months in, I was like, had no more heartburn. So I know that sometimes, even though my neurological symptoms were still screaming at me and I couldn't speak very well, I was always keeping the mind on the fact that my digestion had improved. And that's what kept me going as I progressed. It took me 2.5 years to heal some of my neurological stuff, but I kept going because I was seeing results in at least in some of the parts of my body, not only my digestion, but also my allergies, my sinuses. When I was sick, and I was for years and years prior to getting really sick, I was taking a lot of over-the-counter medications. I would take Zantac for my heartburn twice a day, which is, of course, linked to cancer, now that we know that, which was not good for me to be taking. I also took a bunch of allergy medication. So I was on Flonase and Zyrtec and Mucinex and Tylenol, allergy and sinus, those kind of medications, like daily, like all of that together. And then some NyQuil here and there for sleeping at night, all sorts of stuff. Plus, oh my gosh, you guys, I was poisoning myself without realizing it. I didn't realize it. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that those things got better right away. And I got off all that medication like a couple months in. I just decided to go cold turkey, get rid of everything, which again, I don't recommend for everyone because that was too drastic. But what I can say, though, is that I've never gone back. So it's been over 6 years. I have not taken any sort of sinus medication. I've never taken a Zantac. I've never taken a Tums or anything for my heartburn. Ever since it healed, it has been healed. So that's been amazing. So as I've progressed to continue on with my journey, it's been really, really helpful to reflect on those positive things because, again, that is proof to me that the body is healing. You know, when we cut our finger, we don't wonder if our finger's going to repair itself and if it's going to heal. We just know it instinctively. We've seen it many, many times. We know that our finger is going to heal. And, you know, what we don't recognize is that the healing happens from the inside out. So often we cut ourselves and then we see the scab. And then by the time the scab falls off, the healing, like there's no more boo-boo underneath there because it is healed from the inside out. The scab is the last thing, which is the external thing that we see. So oftentimes our liver is healing itself unbeknownst to us in ways that we can't tell, we can't see. We can't always see the outcome. And there's a little bit of a lag time that comes too behind the, implementing the protocols consistently and then actually seeing the result. You know, it's funny because this year I started doing a cleanse every month again. After spending a few years really not cleansing, I was staying on the protocols, but I wasn't actively cleansing. And so what I realized is that now, because my body has cleaned out enough, I'm actually able to see almost instant gratification from doing the cleanses, which is kind of new for me. So that's been kind of a nice little bonus because always before, when I was in the thick of trying to heal myself and I was doing cleanses, I would do the cleanse and, well, at first, because I was so toxic and I didn't prep my body to cleanse, it just kicked up all those toxins, which made me feel terrible. And I suffered through those cleanses. I didn't sleep. For whatever reason, the toxins affected my ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. So basically, every time I did a cleanse for the first 5 months that I was doing it, I didn't sleep through those cleanses, which was agonizing, as you can imagine. So we have to listen to our bodies. So, I don't know where you guys are on your healing journey. You can drop a comment and let me know if you're just starting out, if you've been at this for a while, where you are on your healing journey, because sometimes it's important to listen to our inner needs, what it is that we need. If you've been cleansing a lot and you're feeling frustrated because you're still not seeing the results that you wanted to see, maybe it's time to just take a little break so you can mentally gather yourself and circle back to the cleansing when you're feeling more emotionally ready to do it. When we are on these protocols, it can be really challenging in the fact that we're giving up the comfort of those comfort foods or the things that we would turn to usually, even the clean versions, of the Simple Mills crackers or the Siete chips or those, those types of things. One of my go-to things is the Rayo's marinara sauce. I just love that stuff. And, of course, obviously I don't eat it when I'm on a cleanse, but those are the things that bring me comfort as far as food is concerned. But when we're depriving ourselves of those things, what we have to do is replace that with other ways to make ourselves feel better, because we're not allowed to use food as our little comfort, our blanket, our something that we are turning to in those moments where we're feeling out of sorts. We have to figure out other ways to kind of comfort and soothe ourselves. So sometimes we have to get back to those basics and find out what brings me joy. Sometimes we're so disconnected from that and we're so used to putting other people's needs ahead of ours And we're out of touch with what the simple little things that bring us joy, and taking time to find time for those things every single day so that we can fill up our own cup as we are doing hard things. We're doing hard things. We're making the changes. We're implementing the protocols. But what we need to do is also love and nurture ourselves in a way that we haven't been doing. Often we are giving ourselves tough love in a way because we're doing all of the protocols no matter what, and we are basically being very attention driven to that one little detail. I know for myself, I made a mistake when I first started implementing these protocols. I was still in my old ways of thinking about myself and my old identities. So I have this list of, identities that I had for years and years that really helped me survive in the world, but did not allow me to thrive. So things like my people pleaser, my perfectionist, my producer, which is that part of you that is the overachiever that needs to earn your worth, or have a long accomplishment list on any given day so that you can feel good about yourself. I was the party girl. I was the procrastinator. I had all of these different personas that were not really serving me. And I transferred all of those into my protocols for medical mediums. So like my perfectionism got a little out of control in the beginning because I was holding myself to this strong, high accountability to make sure I was getting all these crazy protocols in every day. And what I realized is that the energy behind that is not very nurturing, and also doesn't set me up to feel good about what I'm doing. It makes me feel lousy because I am constantly falling short and not doing enough. It's never enough, never enough. And so it's so important to recognize when you're in those old ways of thinking. The truth of the matter is that we are perfect, beautiful creations of God. We all have our own unique gifts. And some other basic truths are that A, our body knows how to heal and is always conspiring to do it. And then B, the universe and God have our back and is always conspiring for us. So we have a lot of wonderful things stacked in our favor, but for some reason, our RAS wants to focus on the stuff that is not going well or is imperfect. So we are allowed to have flaws. I know our primordial brain will tell you if you're not pleasing someone, when you're a people pleaser, you feel like your life depends on it. And when people are upset with you, you feel almost like you're risking survival because of that primordial need to be part of a tribe in order to survive, which actually was kind of true back in the days of, the cavemen. You needed to be in a tribe in order to survive. Otherwise, predators and starvation and all of that stuff could be a reality for you. That is not the case anymore. We do not absolutely need to be accepted and in everyone's good graces at every moment, especially when it's at the cost of our own sanity, our own peace, our own nurturing, what we need to nurture for ourselves. So learning how to shift that perfectionist or the people pleaser and just align it more with the truth of the matter, which is you are perfect and you don't have to do anything to earn it. And you are allowed, as a perfect creation of God, you have a right to state your needs and what you need. It is a valid thing for you to be able to express. And so you don't necessarily always have to put yourself first, but while you're healing, it's kind of important that you do prioritize yourself and your own healing most of the time while you're in the thick of it. Otherwise, it gets pushed to the bottom of the to-do list, and then we are stuck with a situation where we're really not giving ourselves what we need at any given time, and that can slow down our healing. So, one of the other things we can do is, notice what is our emotional trajectory every day. Usually most people have a basement and a ceiling every day that they travel in between on a roller coaster ride emotionally. So we might start the day up high. We're like waking up feeling okay. And if we have nervous system problems, usually the morning time is a little better. As the day progresses on, our nervous systems start wanting to shut down and they get weaker and can present more symptoms later in the day. So if we are starting the day okay, we're doing okay, but then something happens and we get triggered by someone who, let's say someone is says something negative about your morning routine or something. Let's pretend like you have a spouse that doesn't really fully understand what you're doing with these protocols and is like, gosh, that seems like a lot of work. Why are you bothering doing that? Something like that we could say. Well, that can trigger us sometimes. So our emotional trajectory goes down into the dumps, and suddenly we're triggered by all of these things that are our own deep-seated doubts. When am I going to heal? Am I ever going to heal? Am I wasting my time? Blah, blah, blah. We start, the primordial brain loves to seize that moment and come in and start telling you all the reasons that you should not believe it and not continue it. And so what we have to recognize is we have to get back to those 3 basic truths. And our body knows how to heal and is always conspiring to do it. So it will heal. I can't tell you when. We all have our different time frames, and the body has innate knowledge on when is the right time for it to heal. But we have to just quiet those doubts and those thoughts that are happening by interrupting it. A lot of times we can just change our state, move into a different room. We could do some physical activity of some sort. We could sit outside for a minute, listen to the birds, take a walk. There's countless things. Listen to some music that makes you feel good. Read a passage of a book that really inspires you. All of these things help us to break that cycle of that trajectory downward emotionally. And then we have to take a look at those beliefs that are getting triggered. So again, a lot of times there's feelings of unworthiness that is at the root of all of this thing. I've realized on my own journey, when I was trying to dig down deep, what is at the root of all of my symptoms physically, as well as my emotional distress or bad feelings on a daily basis. And what I realized was that I just had these deep-seated feelings of unworthy that were kind of ridiculous in a way, because again, we come back to those 3 basic truths. And I am no better than anyone, but I'm also no worse than anyone. We are all beautiful creations with different talents and different focuses. But honestly, we all are worthy, and we all don't have to do anything to earn love. We are worthy of it just right now, the way we are. And therefore, dismissing some of those thoughts that start creeping in when you're in your low point and just saying, no, I'm refusing to let that dominate my mind right now. I'm changing the channel, basically. I'm going to start listening to something uplifting, something, maybe there's a podcast or some sort of a show. Sometimes I've watched, some mindless sitcoms over and over again, like, Friends or Seinfeld or The Office. And some of those, just to change my channel, change my mind for that moment so that I can resume my good feelings and my enthusiasm for what it is that I want to do, and not allow those drones, that I like to call them, those drones of doubt, to come in and start ruining my day. So that's a big one. The energetic frequency component is a big one because that's the engine that powers our immune system, powers our digestion, powers our repair work that's going to happen in our bodies. When we're in fight or flight or in a low vibe emotionally, those other functions are not happening as efficiently. So we can feel very stuck, and it kind of does slow down the nutritional stuff from having as much of an effect. Maria's on. She says, you're so right. The thing we focus on, we get more of. Yep. Absolutely. That's correct. So we have to be super mindful of our thoughts. A lot of times we're super adamant about what we're going to put into our mouths and what we're going to ingest or put on our bodies, like personal care products and such. But we don't consider what we let in here. And we are honestly the biggest sabotagers. That primordial brain will do a number on you if you are not conscious of what it's up to. Sometimes we have to just not listen to our thoughts. They are not always telling us the truth. Sometimes they're giving us faulty information. And when that's the case, we have to learn to just tune them out and say, I'm choosing not to listen to that right now. I'm choosing hope, and I'm choosing faith, and I'm choosing to trust my body knows how to heal. It is doing what it's supposed to do. I know if I cut my finger, it's healing. It works that way on all of the systems. And as long as we're providing the building blocks for our bodies to repair themselves, then we can trust that it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So just doing this in a fashion that is sort of in the flow of life, and we're not forcing it. We're not angsting about whether we're doing enough or worrying all the time. We're putting all of that stuff aside, and we're just getting into faith and to trust. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the sunset meditation. I believe it's in Liver Rescue, the book. But it's just a very simple thing you can do every day, is simply to be aware of when the sun is setting each day. And if you can go outside and actually view it, that's great. But even if you can just see it in your mind's eye, and just picture the sun going down and asking the angel of faith and the angel of trust to rebuild your trust in your body that you're healing, and rebuild your faith that God and the universe have your back and that all is well and everything's going to be all right. And then in the next morning when the sun comes up, it's just like a little wink to you from God that yes, it is, all things are coming to you that are the beneficial things that we're looking for, the healing that you're looking for, the brand new day that you get to start fresh with. Another thing I love to do, I am currently growing a garden, and it makes me so happy because every day I go out there, and I'm not a great gardener. I'm sort of new at it, and I'm not, that skilled at it or anything like that. But I just love seeing the miracle of life over and over again. The fact that this tiny seed turns into this giant plant that's giving me all of this nourishment and these wonderful cucumbers or tomatoes or squashes or whatever. I am just still in awe that all of that comes from this tiny little thing. Now, come on, that is pretty miraculous. And if it's possible for that little seed to become that amazing plant, what is my body capable of? It's like incredible. And so just learning to relax into it and trust. That's the biggest takeaway. Feeling unstuck because you're not focusing on the things that are going wrong. You're focusing on what's going right. And then before you know it, you're not obsessing about those wrong things. And then you forget you even had them because they're gone. And then you're like, oh yeah, I used to have that symptom. I forgot about that. There's so many symptoms that I've healed that I'm like, people will bring up and I'll be like, oh yeah, I used to have that. That's weird. Weird to think about now. Like heart palpitations or what's some other ones? Just, I don't know, I had so many neurological ones. So like, pretty much you name a neurological symptom, I probably had it at some point. But anyway, I hope this has given you a little pep talk today, because I know this is a long road. Look, we don't collect all the toxins in a day, and we don't get rid of them all in a day. It's over a period of time, and we just have to trust that the innate knowledge that the body has will eventually get us where we want to go. And honestly, just laying back and letting it happen is the quickest way to do it. Less is more sometimes when it comes to these healing protocols. And it's easy to get into fear. We let that fear kind of consume us, and we hear of other stories of people who maybe are not healing for X, Y, or Z. But I promise you, those people probably are not implementing these things that I'm talking about in terms of relaxing, in terms of calming their nervous system down and trusting. Because honestly, the people that I have met that have had a trouble healing all the way, they've stalled out on their healing, honestly have not addressed a lot of this emotional stuff and are kind of running on adrenaline every day. And as you probably know, adrenaline is the most toxic thing that we can come into contact with. So learning how to calm that down and change our way of thinking so we can change our nervous system. And then all of that automatically has a chain reaction into our bodies functioning better. We're breathing deeper. Our digestion is happening more efficiently, so we're absorbing more of the nutrients. All of those building blocks are getting diverted to repairing the cells instead of at a moment's notice being able to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. Because being in fight or flight is sending all of those nutrients to the wrong place. So we want to redirect it and be in that rest and digest phase so that our bodies can utilize all of the things, those beautiful healing foods that we're eating can be diverted to where they need to go. So anyway, let's see what else we got here. Yay! Maria says, it's been perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm going to try and come on here a little bit more regularly and talk about this stuff, because honestly, I think that sometimes that's the missing link in a little bit of this, the medical medium protocols and stuff. I know Anthony William has given us so many wonderful tools, but also there might be some past traumas or brain damage that happened to us that sometimes needs a slight tweak so that we can apply those tools in the most peaceful, calm, beautiful way. So thank you again for joining me, and I will see you guys very soon. Sending you lots of love. Bye-bye.